Good morning and welcome to my hobby bench once again. And on the table today I've got my old friend here, my Enya 80 4-cycle engine, and it is completely in pieces. Now I think I left off with this little quickie video series on showing these clean engine parts. Well, now it's time for me to actually put these things back together, and I figured why not just do it on video. It's been many years since I've cleaned or reassembled a Enya 4-cycle engine on video, even though the videos I did do years ago were very good. In fact, one of the first things I'm going to talk about here is the timing of the engine. And I created a video, one of my earliest videos back in, I think, March of 2016 it was a how-to video on how to set the timing on an Enya 4-cycle engine. And believe it or not, that was actually a really good video. Most of my old videos are like complete garbage. This one's really a good video, so I'm probably not going to cover every single thing on that because I'll link it in this video and you can watch it there. It's a really good video, but I am going to talk a little bit about it. Now, why, you might be asking, why do I have the instructions for an Enya 60 4-cycle engine here? Well, the reason I do is because they never made specific instructions for the Enya 80 4-cycle, at least in none of the Enya 80s I ever saw or had. I don't believe I ever saw specific instructions for the Enya 80 4-cycle. So it was always the Enya 60 4-cycle, and then they would include this Enya 80 4-cycle supplement. And it basically just tells you the differences in the two engines and the parts that are different. But the reason I have this printed out is because of this timing diagram right here. Every single Enya engine, 4-stroke engine that is, in the original instructions will show you, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, I've got other images I can put up. We'll show you images, and that's part of what's so good about the other video is that it got really good images there of these. I didn't take the time to cut and paste these things. They show you the timing and how to set the timing. Now, I'm holding this up here now, but I'll probably put another image up here. But there are basically timing marks on each of the timing gears, and there are 2 marks on the timing shaft. Now, the other day when I was cleaning this engine, let me try and find a place to put this paper. Cleaning the engine, I was having a really tough time finding those marks. And let's see, where's the other? I got one of my timing gears here. Come on, where's the other timing gear? Here it is. I was having a very difficult time finding those marks. Why? Because, let me zoom in here. Because it still had a lot of crud on it, and I think you can see here that I actually used a lot of 400 grit emery cloth and was doing that because I really had to find where those marks were. Well, it turns out, I didn't realize it, I should have realized it by now, those marks. See how this timing shaft has a hole in the top? Well, how do you time engines? You always time engines with the piston at top dead center. Always. I've never not known a 4-stroke low engine that wasn't timed with the piston at top dead center. So this hole denotes where those marks would be on here, but you still have to see those marks. And for the life of me, I don't know if you're going to be able to see those marks on here or not. They are faint. They're on this timing shaft, there are little cuts. Lines. And the thing that's important about those lines is that they lie in the space between teeth. So these lines lay in the gap, in the low point between teeth on this shaft. The dots that are on these timing gears lay on teeth. Each of them lays on a tooth because that's how you time it. You put the tooth on that gap, on that line, and that's how you time it. So that's how you time these engines. I don't know that I'm going to be getting to that point here very soon. I'm trying to think here right now how I need to go about doing this reassembly. Let me just get into that. Now, I don't have one of the things I mentioned. I got to remember that I'm zoomed way in here. One of the things that I mentioned is that this, in one of the earlier videos, is that this bearing is held in with a snap ring. So it's got this big snap ring here, and I don't have snap ring pliers anymore, but these will suffice. So first thing I'm going to do is just collapse this and get that snap ring put in place so that it's holding that bearing in place, and it looks like, I think that's fully seated. Let's see here if this sits in there flush. That would probably be the thing that tells me whether that's fully seated or not. I know I thought I had this bearing fully seated. Yet that snap ring doesn't look like it's fully seated in there. Maybe it is. All I know is that that should be fitting in there pretty flush, and it doesn't appear that it is. I don't know. I might actually have to go out and heat this thing up. Maybe this bearing isn't fully seated still. I'm not seeing a gap in there. Let's see here. Well, that thing just came out pretty easily. There it went. Gap looks pretty even all around there. Let's try this again. I don't know, that could kind of be a little bit of a buzzkill here if I can't get this snap ring fully seated. Now it looks like that might be fully seated in there. I think that looks like that's in there now. Okay, so I think we're good to go here. Now see, the thing that's beautiful about the fitment of this particular engine is I can just slide this thing in and out. Woohoo. Now let me sit here and think real quick. So what would be fun to do, which would be probably a little more enjoyable, but not possible, would be to just install this shaft, which I'm going to do right now, and put these timing pieces in right now. However, and I did kind of attempt this, you really can't do that because even though there is this little bitty hole here, these gears are going to cover that up. So you have to have some way to keep this at top dead center so that you're not off at all. So the only way to really do that is to put the front housing on and with the crankshaft on there. So that must be our next step. I've got this installed. Nothing else goes in here at this time except the piston. So we do need to have the piston installed here. So this looks like front. So let's. All of this stuff is already very well lubed. This is just a matter of compressing that piston ring all the way around. So we got our piston in there. Now we just turn this. We have to put our piston at top dead, what would appear to be top dead center, so that when the crankshaft comes in there, those holes are going to line up perfectly. Looks like it needs to come up just a hair more. Okay, that looks good. So let's put this gasket on here first. This gasket is a pretty snug fit. As they say, if it's not tight, it's not right. This is tight and it's not lined up properly either. Boy, can I turn it while it's on here? There we go. Okay. Now, since there's no orientation with this housing, it doesn't really matter how I put this thing in here as long as I line it up with top dead center and get that engaged in there. Now, see, it's in the connecting rod. Now it's in the timing shaft too. So let's find our big front housing screws. All of these things have been laying in here for days. That's not the right screw. With this ballastol on it. You know, it's funny because I've had this can of ballastol for years. I think a friend, John Kalinsky, sent it to me, who I haven't heard from in years. I believe he sent it to me, and I never really used it for whatever reason, but I just, in the last month or so, I've really fallen in love with it. In fact, I ordered some more. It has a fairly pleasing odor or aroma, fragrance, however you want to say it, but it just works. It's not a penetrating oil. They make it very clear that it's not a penetrating oil, but you can clean with it. It was originally designed for, in World War I, I believe, or before World War I, by the Germans for cleaning their arms. Pistols, rifles, things like that. So it has a long history. It's basically just mineral spirits, I think, is what, maybe a proprietary other substance. Now you'll see I'm torquing this with my fingers like this, and so that I know that when it hurts my fingers. Oh shit, look at that. I thought I had it. I thought I had it in there. And I didn't. Crap. I thought I had it lined up. Maybe I should have tested that before I guess I should have tested that before I torqued that all down. I went through all that screwing. Yeah, sometimes that happens. Live and learn. There's a mistake that you can all learn from when you're putting your Enya or FS 90, 75, 80 engines or FS 61 engines together that have similar construction. Always make sure your connecting rod is actually engaged in the crankshaft with the crank pin. I can just do this. Since that's got such a nice loosey-goosey fit, this might make it even easier. Just do this. See? Okay, now it's definitely in there. And my timing shaft is turning. Okay, so we're good there now. I apologize if I pulled that out of frame. I didn't mean to do that. I'm looking down and not up. we can time the engine. Now is probably when I would ideally like to find a piece of block, foam, or something to hold this in place. So I may end up turning off the videos, both videos, for a moment and seeing if I can fixture something so that it holds this in place so that it's a little bit easier for me to facilitate doing this. Okay, I'm back and I've got the engine timed. If you look down at the table, if you look down at the table, I'm the one that controls whether you're looking at the table looking at me or not. Anyway, I just found a box and I just cut a couple of slits in it and shoved this crankcase in there, and that's how I held it and did this. This was not as simple as I may have made it sound. It's not simple at all because those things are so small, but I did with my cell phone. Sometimes cell phones can be a really nice thing. I took a really fantastic picture, which I'll show right now, of this timing shaft and those lines or scribe marks on it. I don't think I'm going to be able to take a picture of, let me zoom in a bit here. I don't think it's possible for me to take a picture and get showing you the timing dots. Basically, you have to use the orientation of the lobe is the lot, but man, I sat there for minutes. Is that gap where the notch is that tooth and that gear really there? I mean, because this one here, the exhaust one, is far back. It's recessed deep, so the lighting is hard. Trying to get the lighting right for your eyes. It was just, okay, enough of that. It's done. It's done, and I'm glad that part's done. Now, and so one of the other things if you're doing one of these is, I know it's nice to have all your parts all nice and lubed up and everything, but in this instance, having that lube, that glistening on there was really detrimental to being able to see. So I had to wipe a lot of that stuff off. So I am going to spray these things again with my trusty loving Ballistol. Just because this area tends to get kind of gross. So all we do here is just insert this timing case cover now. So there's no gasket that goes on there. The gasket on this engine goes on this side. And it's just a little cover piece that goes on there. Now this cover piece will tend to get crudded up pretty bad in this hole. And the end of that shaft tends to get crudded up pretty bad. So this whole area of the engine doesn't get a whole lot of good lubrication. It just, the design is just such that it just doesn't really get a lot of good lubrication. So it's really important when you're reassembling one of these that you put a nice coating of oil on these things, because that's where a lot of your rust will begin on those timing gears. It just doesn't get good lube back there, and I think that's just kind of one of those design. What the hell is this? There is a gasket? Shit, there is a gasket for that front piece. Damn it. I don't want to, oh, son of a gun, that this sucks. I don't want to pull this whole thing off and have those damn gears come with it. I don't want to retime this engine. No, 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 I don't want to retime this engine. Boy, I hope those things just stay right there, because I don't want to retime this engine. Maybe what I can do is make sure I don't have to. Pushing on those things. I pull this off. Oh, okay, good. Phew. Cool. I did not want to have to retime that engine at all. Let's see here. That doesn't go there. It must be this guy. I got the wrong gasket on here. See that? There were two gaskets here. That gives me ample opportunity to double check and make sure that that is all lubed up really well in there. So all the same things I was just saying apply. Keep it lubed. It just doesn't get a lot of lubrication back there for whatever reason. Design issue. Design, I won't say issue or flaw, it's just the design. Just the design. And that's how it works. Now we got our gasket stack correct. Throw that gasket in there. It doesn't need to be out here. All right, none of those are wanting to just start by hand. Okay, finally. Got all these screws in here, gaskets in place. Now it's time to drop our cam followers in. I just have to find them in this bin. There's one, there's the other. Orientation. There is an orientation of cam followers here. You got a flat end and an end with that the push rod fits into. They both have little holes. The flat end has a tinier hole. Just make sure that that tinier hole goes down. These things should just drop right into place here. Now we can install our head, push rods and head. Get the gaskets and the push rod seals. Should be 4 of these guys. There we go. Just drop one in each of the holes here. Couple in the top of the head. I got 5 head screws I need to get out. 2. This part's always a little bit fun too because it's like you kind of have to hold this in place and eyeball it, seat those things. This one's not seated. There we go. Now, I like to put one screw in the back here first. Just get it started. All of these things have been bathed in ballistol. That sound denotes a text message from the love of my life. Snug, 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 not torqued, just snugged. Fingers are really oily here now. Okay, head bolts torqued. She's coming along. She's coming along. Okay. I think I'm going to take a break here. Maybe find some lunch. Pick this up a bit later. Okay, I'm back. I didn't eat lunch. All I did was grab a glass of water. I'm so close here. It's like, why would I even stop? So here we go. We got the engine all ready for the... What is that garbage on my engine already? Oh, it's a shadow. Ready for the push rod and rocker arm installation. So Enya push rods, no orientation. They're symmetrical, so you just kind of drop those in place. See if I can. I want this piston at bottom dead center though, and it is. It gives me maximum flexibility here. So as I said I was going to do, in one of the previous videos I did completely loosen these rocker arm adjusting nuts. So there will be no issues there whatsoever. So let's put this intake rocker arm on. Slide our that in place. Now what we need to do is, I thought I wanted those down there, bottom dead center. Yeah, I do. It's just there's a little bit of tension on there still. I gotta get this little springy deal in there. Oh, okay, yeah, that's sliding fine now. Okay. And with that spring in place, I want that to go all the way in there. With that spring in place, I have to finagle this one in here now. So slightly compressing the spring and try and slide this down in there. I know you can't see what I'm doing because I can't see what I'm doing either. You have to get that spring compressed just enough so you can fit that thing in there. There we go. Now make sure these cutouts are facing the top on that rocker pin, because when the rocker cover goes on, those screws are the only thing that holds that in place. Not like it's going to come out, but I mean that's just kind of how you want that done. So we got good movement there. I'm not going to bother setting the valve lash at this time. I'm just going to go ahead and finish the installation, or installation, not installation, the assembly. I could just do this and just install this intake manifold by itself. Might be easier. Believe it or not, some of these little things are kind of like a little balancing act. You got to try and have a screw ready to go, and it works out better if you do. Leave that screw loose so that when you reattach it to the carb, you're not fighting it there. So leave it kind of loosey-goosey there so you can make sure both screws are started at least. And it doesn't look like I had that one started. Thought I did. Where's the hole? Where's the bleeding hole here? Thought I had it in the hole. Okay. She's in there. in there now. Alright, so it still should be loose enough for me to take it out of turn. Loose enough for me to slide that up on here. Now I need, this attaches with this little bracket, but I also need the choke mechanism. And I need the screw. Put the screw in the choke mechanism in the carb first, and then line that up. Hopefully line that up. I think it needs a little hair around it. I'm not getting it in there. Sometimes that can happen if you got that carb up there too high on the intake manifold. That's what it was. I had it up in there a little bit too high. So the hole was up here a little bit too much. So now it's in place. And everything's good there. So basically this engine is done now. Just for giggles, I can put my exhaust header on here and make it look all cool as hell, because that's one thing that's cool as hell about Enya 4-stroke engines, at least the, these smaller ones, the 60 and 80. Some came with exhausts or pressure adapters, but they don't really need it. And they look cool, and they sound cool when they are running like that. There you go. With the exception of setting the valve lash, my friend is back together now. I sure hope to hell that I got that front bearing seated all the way. I know what, I'm seated all the way when I put a prop on there, that's for sure. Anyway, there you go. There is 99% reassembly of my friend, my Enya 84 cycle engine. Maybe you learned something. Hope you enjoyed watching me fumble around. Anyway, there you go. Thank you.